just finished the Maiden tour.
Yes.
What was that like?
It was great. It was
Oh,
awesome.
man.
Yeah, the last time we played in the USA with Maiden was 25 years ago in 1988. So Far So Good So What album for us, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son for them.
You guys were on the same label, Capitol?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And we were kind of the young bucks, you know, and Maiden had certainly, you know, had their big years, you know. And it was cool this time as, you know, now here we are all these years later, we've actually kind of earned our keep now, you know, and actually can made I think, a good contribution to the tour.
Yeah.
You know, our fan base is the same. I mean, a Maiden fan is a Megadeth fan.
Sure.
Is a Maiden fan, you know what I mean? So it was just probably one of the best. You know, the big four, of course, is our generation. So that obviously was a great dynamic. Megadeth, Slayer together, Megadeth, Anthrax. Any of those combinations are great. But Maiden, you know, is it's one of those ones where our fans really just are great together, man. It's just awesome.
And you got the British and the Americans together. It's that whole global thing, you know.
Yeah.
What was the highlight for the big four for you? You got Metallica, you guys, Slayer, and Anthrax. What sticks in your mind, you know, is the highlight?
Well, you know, obviously probably here in America, Yankee Stadium was this big one because of, you know, the Yankees and that thing. And the California show we did in Indio was awesome. In fact, they left the billboard up there out there on I-10. If you drive by, you'd still see it. It's still there.
Are you serious?
At least last time I went by, it was still there, which is kind of cool. It's almost like a national landmark.
Need to preserve that for historical value.
You know, doing it in Europe, I mean, we played Nebworth. You know, Megadeth had never played Nebworth before, so it's cool to play. That's a legendary. Obviously, Led Zeppelin played there. Queen, I think, maybe played their last show there or something, or you know, had played there years back. So I mean, just legendary place. So we got to do some big stuff like that. And of course, the four of us together is just, man, that's like all the fingers of a fist coming together, you know.
Yeah, really, and have Jeff Hanneman there. I mean, that had to be special.
Yeah. You know, and obviously very sad about Jeff, you know, and because you realize, you know, there are these moments you need to capture them. You need to capture every moment, really, because, you know, you hate to ever see something like what with Jeff happen, but you know, we're all getting a little bit older, and you know, things happen, and you know, it's for all of us to. That's why every time we did like 20th anniversary Rest in Peace, the new Countdown to Extinction live is going to come out next week. That we actually filmed back in December of 2012 in Pomona. So we try to capture those things because, you know, lineups change, people change, things happen, you know, bands change, so it's great to just capture these things. It's like that snapshot of a moment in time for the fans to relive. Sure.
Well, take us back for a minute, because I know, you know, how this all started for you. You lived in the same apartment building of Dave Mustaine. And tell us the story again, how you guys clicked. And
Well, you know, the initial thing was, you know, me plugging my bass in one morning and thumping out what either was or sounded like Running with the Devil, and Dave. I don't know if it was Dave or it was the girl that he was roommating with, because he just come home from Metallica, you know, from that stint, and this girl Tracy, and she throws the flower pot down and screams her head off, you know, shut the bleep up, you know, and of course that then led to my buddy Brad. And it was for my buddy Greg, Brad, and Brent. We all moved out from Minnesota together. And like, yeah, we saw this guy. He's like, looks like kind of this long-haired surfer rocker dude. And he wasn't wearing any shoes. He's walking around the apartment building. He looked cool. We should try to meet up with him, you know, because we're new in town trying to meet somebody. And we realized, I think that guy lives up above. He goes, oh my God, that's the flower pot situation, you know. So we went up and knocked on his door and asked for some cigarettes, and he slammed the door in our face, and then we asked where to buy beer, and he let us in, you know. So, you know, but and that's, you know, that's such a great moment, because you know, to meet Dave, and he's talking about this band Metallica, which none of us had heard of because they were Kill 'Em All hadn't come out yet. I mean, just getting steeped into the whole scene and the genre, and finding out, you know, Dave was just such a leader, you know, and a writer, and really probably the inventor of thrash metal, you know, with his guitar playing style. And, you know, in the first, you know, after we hung a little bit, then he started playing some of his tunes, which were like what would become Devil's Island. Set the World Afire, which was originally called Megadeth. That song was called Megadeth, and that was the first song he wrote on the bus ride home from Metallica. And then he had the lyrics. And what I thought was cool with Dave is he showed me these lyrics, and they were just these really simple, easy to comprehend lyrics with incredible depth to them. I mean, really written like a lyric, not just words and sentences that all ended with the same rhyme.
Yeah.
But really lyrical. And you just realize it's like, man, this guy's really, there's a lot going on here, and it's, Dave's one of these guys. I mean, he's just an incredible talent, an incredible songwriter, guitar player, and his vision that he has. And, the thing I've really come to appreciate in my last few years being back with Dave is just his ability to have a vision, stick to it, and fight to the death for it. I mean, being on Dave's team is the right team to be on. You don't want to be on the other side of that. But it's like,
give up.
And bands. I mean, let's face it. It's a crappy business, man. It's a scummy business with a lot of really scummy, creepy people in it. And fortunately, we've clawed our way to the top now that we're hanging with good people, who fight on our behalf now. But I tell you, I've watched Dave. He'll stand up for things and fight for things, and sometimes initially I go, wow, is that really worth fighting that hard for? And then I step back and it's like, you know what, man, if Dave isn't gonna fight for it, no one will. Yeah. And I've really come to admire that about him as much as anything, that he is just, he's a scrapper, man, and he will fight for Megadeth and for what he believes in, and you realize in this world that it's like, especially in this business in rock and roll, and it's like if you don't stand up for yourself, no one else will.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, it's great to see you back in the band. I know it must have been a lot of mixed feelings. One, to take a break from the band, but to finally get that vindication. Like, wait a minute, I helped start this thing. I got to get back in the co-pilot seat here. Yeah. And I think that really gave a lot of stability to the fans, that it was a familiar face, because, again, the band's had a few guitarists, a few drummers. It was really important to, see. Again, you looked at Slayer, and up until recently, it was all the original guys, and Metallica, besides Dave, change. I mean, you had a lot of stability, so I think the common thread with you being back in the band it means a lot for the fans. Yeah,
well, no, I appreciate that, and it's it was a lot for both me and Dave to kind of just sort of laying down of arms and go, you know what, man, we're better together, and it works well together, and for Dave to be good with that, and for me to be good with it, that's a lot, that doesn't happen with most bands, and especially when members spend some time away from each other. That reconciliation, that coming back together, man, it just doesn't happen, and everything kind of has to be in the right place for that to happen, And I got to tell you, Sean Drover, our drummer, man, I mean, he was probably the biggest supporter, because he, as a fan of Megadeth's work, as a musician in the band, he just saw, he goes, man, it's like Ellefson's he's the guy that we got to get back to really make this work. And now with Sean and me, it's I always said, it's like I was always Dave's right-hand man, and now it's good to have Sean over on the left, so that, and I think for Dave, it gives him the ability to really, be the creative powerhouse that he is, and know that he's got, me and Sean, and of course, it's kind of like me and Sean are the wings and Chris is the tail, you know what I mean?
You got the pillars.
He kind of puts the wind in the sails as well, and so it's a really it's a dynamic that has not ever been in Megadeth before until this lineup, but it's a dynamic that seems to really work well. And last night, even on stage in Sacramento, we were doing this show, and I was just looking over, just going, man, it's freaking rocking, man. I mean, it's just powerful, and you can see it translate to the audience, and that's a good feeling on the stage when you're up there really giving it your all and working it, and pouring your whole life into it. It's nice to see that it's all clicking together and working.
Sure. And it must be incredibly exciting to see the music have the legs that it did. So many bands from your era. Where are they now? Who remembers these guys? And you're one of the few. That's really, the music's held up well. And we can now consider you one of the classics. Of that era. But I know new music is always important. This band never wants to rest on their laurels. So it's exciting to see you guys operating essentially as an independent entity, whether the large companies distribute you or help promote it. What does it mean to have that kind of freedom of independence or creativity?
It's great. I was talking to somebody who was actually at Capitol Records back in the 90s, you know, for euthanasia, I guess, probably through cryptic writings. And, you know, when we first got signed to Capitol, I mean, me and Deb were broke. We're basically homeless, you know, squatting in people's apartments to just, you know, use their phone and have a place to sleep, you know. Yeah. And, you know, if we finally signed to Capitol Records, I remember walking in and going, man, all these people got jobs, and they got apartments, and they got a car, and, you know, they're like, these are like real people, you know. But over the years, man, people get that turnover inside these big bureaucratic record companies and inside these big corporations, man. It's like, all of a sudden, one day, the day hit me. Me and Dave have been here longer than anybody. You know, we've survived more presidents in this place.
4 or 5 regimes, probably.
Exactly, 4 or 5 regimes, exactly. And it was this thing where I was like, we really kind of existed on our own inside of Capitol because we obviously sold enough records we were profitable, so they, you know, as a business, they would keep us there. But creatively, we didn't have our A&R direction. We didn't have anyone inside sort of giving that. We were really, like you said, we were as a band and our management and agency, booking agency, we were our own self-contained thing, and that was really just how we just learned that it's like, man, we have to be self-contained and be our own unit. Yeah. And that has worked well for us, and that's us, and it's also us and our fans, because, you know, at the end of the day, we know what our fans want because we are our fans. You know? We are all the same. You know what I mean? So when you start looking at it from a rock star to an audience member, it's a different dynamic. When you're like, man, when we write a tune and we're all liking it, chances are our fans are going to like it too. Yeah.
I mean, to give it with no filter. I mean, it's your creativity coming out of you. Like you say, you know what the fans want. How can anyone tell you what's right or wrong or how to change that?
So in certain styles of music, you know, record companies and producers and people will really have to help shape that, you know. And it has to be very for the moment. It's a fad, it's a trend, it creates a fad or a trend. But metal music is this constant undertow, you know. It's always kind of underneath all that stuff, and it's like, you know, we grow up metal fans, then we turn into metal musicians, and then we become metal recording artists. And because that transition happens like that, we know how the playing field works, you know, that with our audience and with our fans and stuff. And so it's not, you know, when you go in to make a record, it's kind of like we're just going back to the drawing board one more time and doing what we always do. And Megadeth, probably maybe more than some metal bands, has branched out and done some things. And we've made a couple of errors along the way, for sure, you know. We let some outside influences come in, or maybe we went off on something that you know, that maybe went a little too far outside of it. And what we've realized with that is that, you know, each one of us are songwriters, and sometimes you write a tune that's just not really meant to be inside of Megadeth. It's a great tune, just shouldn't say Megadeth on it. And that's okay, because as a writer, you can take that and set that over there and get back to the business of Megadeth. So we've learned a few things along the way as well, you know.
Yeah. And any other advice you give to that young band or young musician coming up today? It's obviously a different world, but what do they have to concentrate on, not worry about the rest, to really have a shot or to find their own style?
Well, there's 2 parts of that. First, as a musician, if you're young, your formative years are going to really be the stamp of who you are going to become later. So what you're listening to, who you're playing with, all that stuff, get out and do as much of it as you can, because you owe it to yourself to have those experiences to widen up your musicianship, you know. But then there comes that moment as an artist, and that maybe by yourself or if you're with a band, where you really have to focus. You got to say, this is what we're doing. We're not doing all this, we're doing this. And you got to have a laser focus and be really super sharp with that and not stray from that. Because once you find what works, and you know, it's easy. Look out at your audience. Do they like you or not? You know, I mean, it's real simple. It's like, just because your 4 buddies are doing it and your audience hates it, well, guess what? That probably isn't the future, you know. But you know, bands, and you know what I'm talking about. It's like when you're clicking onto something and audiences are responding and you really got something, stick with that, man, and be true to that and really hone that. And I think that always ends up becoming what your future will be.